So there's been a lot of characters in this show that have needed to go, and some were just clumsy idiots who ultimately took care of themselves. Others have given me some very, very strong vibes to push back against. And then there's the eldest prince, who most likely has the strongest claim for this throne, and seriously, from what he wanted to do to Wayne's sister, just because he felt so offended that a little girl was sent, not him, when this should be a meeting to choose the next ruler. So I'm going to marry her. She can't refuse this. It benefits both countries. And in return, I'm going to torture her, make her life hell, because no one can stop me once she's my bride. She is my property. This man is a pure scumbag. And I love how it wasn't even Wayne coming to the rescue that de-escalated that situation. It was actually the princess herself. Throughout this episode, you actually got a good sense that she is without a doubt Wayne's sister, right? There's so many times where she recognizes she's not up to par with a lot of the intelligence and stuff that's going on in the political landscape, but she very much has been taught by Wayne for a long time of how to operate. And the fact that when there's an opportunity to learn something, she takes someone up on that. Like this one character, right, who's basically explained to her how, like, in the middle of the room here, right, everyone is pointing their feet towards him. That means everyone is interested in what this person is saying. It's the little moments that shape a character into being someone who's more than just a side addition, which, up until this point, for the most part, she's been kind of our way of understanding the history of this world more, because she has all these, like, school teachings that kind of explain to the viewer the political landscape and how things got to the point that they're at. But have an episode like this show us that she very much is a little miniature Wayne in the making, and how even though in a situation she knows she can't technically refuse, as it would probably make hell for a lot of people, she also understands that she has her own ways of turning something on its head and becoming a victory, even though it's not going to make the guy happy. And the idea of her just throwing it in his face, I am too young and too inexperienced to make such a decision. Get the hell off of me, basically. You don't have the right to do this. And I'm like, holy shit. I don't know what would have continued to happen had Wayne not popped up at the end there, but I would have been interested to see that, because that was some power plays there. Like, out of everyone in that room at that moment, this little girl had the biggest balls of them all, and I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. Like, in a lot of ways, this is what you would consider more of a setup episode, a downtime episode. For the most part, it's basically all the major players out of the three brothers, as well as Loa herself, trying to make claim to the throne. And right now, it seems like the one who would drag in our boy and basically his kingdom in general would be her herself, right? Because the way she's been manipulating up to this point, she's actually got a couple of sneak attacks in on Wayne, so most likely she'll end up defeating him. But when you end up accidentally sending your sister, I love seeing how he gets defeated. It's not like these major defeats, it's the simple defeats that get me. The idea that he's trying to get out of having to go there. Well, if we don't go, this will look very bad, but if you go now, this is very bad because of us and everything's going on with the wars and stuff. And then the sister mistakenly takes it as, I'm going to send you, and he's like, no, I'll be able to spend more time with you because I won't be leaving. This man is trying so hard to hold on to that leisurely lifestyle, and it continues to bite him in the ass to the point that his sister almost got married and tortured off to one of the worst people we've experienced in the show today. Now, I'm not going to say the prince is the most evil character yet. We just came off of the sister and everything like that. We had a king who literally wanted to, like, hunt nymphs people for sport. Without a doubt, he's worse. But just because you're not as bad as another scumbag doesn't negate the fact that you're a scumbag yourself. And push come to shove, imagining this man as leader, I could see him rising to the status of douchebag to the levels that we've seen in, like, last week's episode, right? But it was great to see Wayne kind of separated for the episode and just letting the girls kind of take hold and run with it, because it's great to see what different characters are able to offer to a story when you have such an intelligent, a manipulative, a hilarious character like Wayne, and then you arguably put the focus on a little girl who is just kind of passive. She's there. She's obviously not just there for show, but she's not arguably as interesting as Wayne himself. And then to see how in the middle of so much uncertainty, she took it as an opportunity to learn, and even when her back was pushed up against a wall, she pulled a brother card and was able to get out of it in a very clean fashion. And I think one of my favorite points of this episode, which probably a lot of people won't care about, was actually seeing the citizens and the political landscape and how the idea of aqueducts, something that is so important for their society, but you're seeing the debate of just like civilians saying we can't afford to use money on aqueducts. Well, of course, this is the only thing we should be using our money on. And seeing the debate and just how into it they are for a time period who don't understand the importance of like an aqueduct. And then there's these other people trying to push for revolutionary things that would change their lives in general. And it was so cool to see that and how it took influence in our own history and kind of created its own fall at the same time. Like, Genius Prince has a lot of things going for it. It can be one of these episodes where it is characters standing around. We go to a party, we're trying to, not get roped up into revealing things we shouldn't, and also accidentally picking a side, because once we do pick a side, it kind of feels like all bets are off and things are going to escalate a lot quicker. With Wayne now there, it feels like we probably are about to pick a side, and it will probably be for Loa herself. That is at least my hunch, just given the fact of there is that established friendship, and the one person who has seemingly been able to get an upper hand on our boy is her. And the fact that the eldest prince is such just an emotional toddler. He literally has the kind of temper tantrum of like a 4-year-old. Unfortunately, that 4-year-old has a very real possibility of becoming a leader of a major country and launching wars because you didn't send your best man to meet me at my dinner party. Like, it's both hilarious and frightening to see how batshit crazy he is, but I like the idea that for the remaining 4 episodes here, we're essentially getting into the thick of it, of establishing either an even bigger war, because if, we submit our loyalty to a girl over the 3 brothers here who are naturally looked at as the real successors to rule, there's a lot of bad shit that can happen. But I mean, I'm glad that before the show wrapped up, we're giving more character moments for like the sister as an example, because this princess needed to show us that she isn't just there to study the history, she's also trying to learn about it firsthand, and that was really, really cool to see. It was also really cool just to see the general kind of like landscapes of before like we got into that chapel, where the town hall, I guess is what you might want to call it. You're just seeing all the different civilians, the different attires from the commoners to the wealthy at the parties. And those are the attentions that really push the show as an anime adaptation, because yeah, it doesn't have like the craziest Sakuga animation, but when you look at the actual aesthetic from the architecture, right? The way the buildings look and how it has a distinct location style, the attire that people are wearing and the clothing on their back, right? It really does give it a sense of personality that I don't really look at this show and say this aesthetically reminds me of blank show. And a lot of times when you get those prince shows, fantasy shows, we have a kingdom, we're probably going to fight another kingdom, I look at their wardrobes and just say, it's nothing all that crazy. But from Wayne's attire, very much giving a prince feel to his servants' attire, like Nim, to the general civilians and the soldiers and the unique uniforms. It very much feels like this world has personality beyond just the characters and how they interact, but more so how they look. And that stuff really goes a long way for an anime adaptation, and I think goes underappreciated despite it adding so much flavor to an already pretty tasty dish, all things considered. I'm loving this show. Definitely is exactly what I love to see in the political kind of like theatrics of anime, while also telling a pretty intense story, all things considered. But thoughts and feelings and theories if you have any, because that cliffhanger definitely has some room to think about where it might go in episode 9 all the way to episode 12, to be honest. But thoughts if you have any, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.